When will Battlefield 6 be set in? It's a question that could be deal breaking or deal making. Before we get into this video guys, if you like Battlefield and this video, please make sure to go down and subscribe for more Battlefield videos 2 times a week. Without further ado, so Battlefield, what time will it be set in? There has already been many leaks that Call of Duty 2021 will be another World War II game, more specifically named Call of Duty Vanguard. But Battlefield, will it confine to its roots and do a re-release of Battlefield 5? Will it go into the popular, yet minimally explored time of Vietnam? Maybe even the future? How about modern? Maybe the Great War? These limitless possibilities of eras really divide the player base. So let's explore the most popular eras voted for and decide what most realistically Battlefield will be launching with. The Great War. When looking back at Battlefield 1, gamers didn't really see how good it was until it was too late. Battlefield 1 came out at a time when genres were oversaturated with futuristic games. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. The game really showcases positivity in a darker age and made an understanding of what DICE was like at this time, 2016. A company beloved by many and growing due to the listening of the players. The listening to players is a key aspect to a business model where you are for the players, as EA so-called says.
Question first. Is this good for the player?
I mean, it really is not that hard to listen to the players. Just follow the money, which are the players, and it should lead you to success, right? Wrong. Even though the game is seen as an overall legendary addition to the franchise, there will always be people who are not interested in that time era because it's more of a niche time. It's always a big struggle, but some general ideas of Battlefield 1 was that it would be sluggish and boring due to the lack of cool equipment and battlefields necessary for a Battlefield game, which turned out to be wrong, but just some of the argument. Do remember, this did come out right after a collection of modern Battlefields. Battlefield 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. Many of the die-hard fans at the time were only modern shooter fans. So think of that. A large majority of Battlefield players are modern shooter fans. World War II. So, many players that love the idea of Battlefield 5, but the direction, have called out that Battlefield 5 shouldn't really be considered a proper addition to the Battlefield franchise, and that another soft launch of what Battlefield 5 should have been is in demand. Meaning that if a new Battlefield game of World War II was to come out, it should include some of the more popular maps like Iwo Jima, but then also provide all the content that we missed out on, like Wake Island, Papua New Guinea, China, D-Day, Stalingrad, and much more. All these iconic battles were left out of the game in a brash idea to look at the less explored events of World War II, which is fine, but to have none of the iconic locations until like 2 years in is quite disgraceful for the community, because that's what everyone looks at when they think of World War II. This has led many people in the community that love World War II shooters to push for a soft reboot. Vietnam, still an often niche experience, is one that hasn't had many games made around for it, and has plenty to offer in the idea of Battlefield, especially with things like the fortification system, where players would be able to create tunnels and little bunkers for soldiers to be going around in. You know, all those Viet Cong tunnels with the rat, pretty sick. Some other things that could be explored through fortifications are traps like the iconic covered spike trap. Vietnam has so much to give for Battlefield, including the fact that there is no large AAA game in the recent years that is on Vietnam, leaving a large hole in the market that would be ripe for the taking. Vietnam could be one of the most requested Battlefield eras due to the great stance DICE has had recreating battles in this time period with their older games. If I had to choose the one I wanted the most, I would be leaning more to this era, as it is truly had no justice in top tier games, apart from like Black Ops. Modern would be the absolute most requested Battlefield era due to the core player base being developed around Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 times. It provides large buildings and more fancy infrastructure to keep up some continuity in a game and allowing for developers to really go out on maps. A big downside to this time is censorship though, as maps based in Iraq and Afghanistan would be a welcome addition with the community to change up the pacing, but the so-called modern era for Battlefield is slightly more postmodern in a World War III, close to the real world years timeline, just like what was seen in Battlefield 4. That's why the era splits off into two semi-eras, slight future and contemporary. Let's be honest, all the companies are in favor of slight future, because then it doesn't make them liable to censorship, as those things have not happened. If they choose to go like 2003 and do something completely different, then they will get get called out for it. So why do they choose the future? Because it's going to provide that lack of censorship, because it hasn't happened just a few years ahead in times like 2025 or 2023, so that they can provide features of a modern game without controversial pieces from the past 20 years. I'm talking about the war on terror. Modern Battlefield also brings things like helicopters and jets back into the playing field, which really does mix up the gameplay. Even some things like scuba diving into an area would be possible with a modern game. That's a part that has not been explored. I'm happy to expand on that, but for all our ground operations, we have jumping as paratroopers. Why not mix it up? We can do water insertions, we can do digging a mine in or something like that. We could do a dropping from space. And there's just so many choices if you're going into the slightly more futuristic area, which I think is handy. Or even in a more modern area, you can do a helicopter insertion instead of just a paradrop. So you can go down like a rope or something. Just broadens the chances they have at looking at differences instead of just the same thing. This area really just lets the developers be more creative, which in terms does benefit the player, especially in this day and age when everyone gets offended. The future. The good old Battlefield 2142 is the most ambitious game in my opinion for Battlefield, as the developers had nothing to go off. It was pure creativity into what they could see a future war being like, and they really did pull it off. That's why a smaller but stronger group of players are still asking for a new entry into the futuristic era due to a timeless classic modes and guns that didn't have to work with the laws of man and could change how things worked entirely. You can just get a jetpack and fly around. Why the hell not? It's 2142. Thank you guys so much for watching. In my opinion, the most likely era that will be explored for the new Battlefield this year will be in a modern era, due to the large community that has been asking for a modern game ever since Battlefield 5 first started, and it is their more successful era that the developers know will succeed because it's been there for so long and people are requesting it. Just by having a modern game for Battlefield, they're going to get a lot more pre-orders. So by making sure that they get a high after an incredibly low launch of Battlefield 5, it is very vital to the longevity of the franchise. Once Battlefield can prove that it is still alive and thriving, then branching out to areas like the future, World War 1, Vietnam, etc. will happen. Just like with Battlefield 1, they took a massive risk to go into that era without even knowing if it will succeed, because they were established in the modern genre. But by not taking that risk, they could have brought Doom onto their franchise through repetition. It would be like if Call of Duty came out with a new Modern Warfare every year. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let's be honest, if you made it to the end of the video, I reckon you enjoyed it, right? What was your most requested era? Did I put it in or did I not put it in? So if you want more content about Battlefield, I post twice a week and I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. Peace.